Mayfield and Ogden down the front straight. Rivkin still right behind him, pacing him.
Hey, this is George, and you're watching the Northeast RC Racer podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Toby Hansen, Tom Petrell, and we have two guest attendees as well tonight, Vin Manchenda and Alan Placer. What's up, guys?
Going on?
How you doing?
What's up?
Vin was actually here last month with his family, his boys. They were the guests for the podcast. We had a really great time with them. It was great to see the boys individually doing well, explaining what it's like being a racer coming up, their dad being involved, having a great time in the program, especially this summer. Vin's oldest son, Aiden, right?
Yeah.
Right, Aiden. I get them confused and sometimes a little nervous as I start the podcast. I just want to get that right. He was really putting it down the last race that I saw, and he was very competitive. And I know he's done great at some of the larger events. So it's great to see somebody who's young in our area putting up a good fight with the pros, and to be able to know them on a one-to-one basis. So just really cool to have Vin and his family. We always like to start the podcast by taking a step back and thanking everybody for the previous episode. So make sure you tell the boys thanks.
Will do. Thank you very much.
In the interim, we have not seen Tom Petrella on the podcast for a while. For let's say the beginning to the end, he's been traveling and busy the last couple of episodes. He was on a little bit before. So Tom, great to see you back.
Thanks, buddy. Good to be back. I tried to jump on, but one time I was in a car. The other time I tried to do it from the camper.
He's been busy celebrating his double win.
I just saw Toby, crack a beer. I can't multitask like he can. It's one or the other.
Because of Toby's to the game with the paperwork, you're really going to get stripped tonight because one of the screenshots that I took from LCRC was the 40 plus. And Tom Petrella's name listed right on top. So, maybe Toby can find that while we're all bullshitting, and maybe we can highlight that. That is part of what we're trying to do is recognize not just the guy who's on the podcast, but the local racer, just like you, Tom. So
every once in a while, blind squirrel finds a nut, buddy.
Good to have Toby back as well. Toby, you well?
I'm good. Your audio's cutting out a little bit, sort of peaking out. But yeah, I'm good. Just returned back from the LCRC cancer race this past weekend, and it was a great event. And it's all pretty much all the racing I've done. I think since last time we spoke, we were a little bit off schedule. We were supposed to record this podcast a week ago, but I bailed basically. Not feeling 100%, but getting back on schedule here. So, should be a good podcast today.
Sweet. I'm encouraged. And not only that, we have Alan Placer, a good friend of mine. I had, since we weren't sure exactly how the podcast was going to start, if it was running this evening, I agreed to do a helpful favor and ended up back here at Alan's Wrench Pit, where we meet up sometimes and do some work on the cars. So we're actually cross table on two different monitors just so we can get that done. But anyway, we are here and looking forward to the guest tonight. Before we do that, I know Toby's got some stats to go over, and we're going to be covering the top 25, I believe, for the Northeast.
That's correct. 1 second. I was just going to bring these pretty images in to.
I'll add some fluff. I'll add some fluff for you, Toby. Till you.
Oh, it went sideways. Oh, never mind. Yeah. So I'm a little behind on my organization insofar as stats, but I did update the top of 25 nitro because it's all about the nitro. The Nest series, which I'm back and forth about whether to include next year, I probably won't, just because not everyone attends or can make a series, and I think that it's just not necessarily relevant. Plus the Nest race round 4 was postponed. It was supposed to be in Madness, I think, last week or the week before. There was shitty weather, so that they don't seem to have figured out a schedule on that one. They seem to want to do it on the same weekend that the HB races. And I haven't seen any discussion about moving it, so that's really not going to work for them. So I'm hoping they move that out so that everybody can attend. At least those people who are going to both. Anyway, so I just adjusted the top 25 drivers, about 5 minutes ago, as usual, little prep. Really not much change. I think Justin Drinks was the only real mover in the top 10. He had a pretty good finish in the A of Nitro Buggy. So really overall not super exciting. Thomas and Henry moved up a little bit, their results. Stober wasn't there. Scheffler. It's the battle between Scheffler and Harmer pretty much has been raging on all year. Harmer taking the TQ and wins this weekend at Cancer Race. Didn't really affect the order, but there's a 1-2. Stober didn't race, so he's still hanging on to third. As you can see, it's not particularly well ordered because Brett has more points than Carter, but like I said, work in progress. I don't actually know why it's so messed up, but anyway, whatever. So that's top 25. Remove that. If we want to just skip over some of the results from the last time we spoke, what have we had? We've had the Mako race and we've had the Cancer race. So we'll quickly talk about Mako. Anyone know what Mako stands for?
Mid-Atlantic Championship Off-Road.
Yes.
Yes.
Mid-Atlantic. What was it? Mid-Atlantic
Championship Off-Road.
Oh, right, yeah. So that's a 2-round series with trains and lanes in the barn. So trains race was September 3rd, which was 2 weeks ago. Fairly well attended, if I recall. 143 entries.
Yep.
And I think it was close to the same layout. They made some changes, right? I think, Vin, for that one.
Yeah, minor tweaks.
Mm-hmm.
Slight changes, I think, to the left side of the track facing it, if I recall. I think I went up there and got some laps afterwards. Anyway, it was another Scheffler win. I don't think doesn't look like Harmer was there.
Dylan was leading it for a long time. And then, we had a pit incident that was actually my fault. And he came in first and he left fourth. So that's where we finished out fourth in that one. But it was a fun race. Scheffler's always great to battle.
Were you flame or just had trouble getting out there?
It was the timing of the pit stops. And I brought him in with a minute and a half to go. And that was enough to bring him from first to fourth.
Got it.
Must have been a long ride home.
Yeah. He's a good kid, though, and understanding. But, I definitely have some guilt there.
Yep. Christian Stober Placus in the top 5. I think Stober's doing the trains HB race, and I think he goes back west for the winter. So that's probably his last race.
He's probably 40 plus. He's killing me.
Aiden, Dylan in eBay 1-2 there. Vin for Pro E-Buggy, guys dominating. And little Minio Fear's getting pretty fast too. Look at him in third. It's pretty impressive. Justin drinks again in fifth. So that's the Pro Buggy. E-Buggy, Nitro Buggy. Did you go to that, Tom? Doesn't know. He doesn't see you there. Oh, no, don't see you there. So are you guys going to the HB Days race coming up?
I'll be there
I plan
tomorrow
on it.
working on the track.
Nice. George, you going?
Potentially.
Cool. I was
Potentially.
thinking.
What about all the other categories at those events, Toby?
Oh, nobody
Did
cares.
you-
Oh,
nobody cares. That's,
so what do we got? Novices. We actually had looks like he had a nice
well,
group of
I
novices.
wasn't really focusing on novice. Basically, we
Well.
should be covering, let's say, the e-buggy, 40 plus e-buggy, 40 plus nitro, and regular nitro. So there's a lot of unsung heroes.
This is true. So 40 plus Nitro Buggy, Stober cleaning up again. Tony Edwards in second. Tony's really picked up some speed with that HB car. Placus in third. Ophir, Carlos with a good result. It's good to see. Henry, Rohan. Wow, look, Rohan. Haven't seen Ro come out for a bit. Jake Eby out there in his new associate cars. Chen
Hey, where's
Williams.
Jake from? Where's Jake from, by the way? I don't mean to interrupt you, but
He's
him
in
and I were
Jersey.
having a little good battle.
Yeah, he's Jersey. He's I don't think he's too far from me actually. Sort of in the sticks in Jersey. At least that's where he lives. I don't know if he's from Jersey, but
Gotcha.
VB Jay Drakeford in 11th, which seems like a shitty result for Jay. Jay's normally pretty fast, so I'm wondering if he had some technical issues. 40 plus E-Buggy was the very much loved Ophir. Jake Eby second, Adam Gregory, George. No, that's the other George, whose name I can't pronounce either. Oh, look, Alan Placer in fifth. Look at you. Dennis Brew, who seems to be running every class at LCRC last weekend and doing very well.
That's our boy Dennis.
Yeah, he's pretty new, right? To the
Putting a
hobby,
lot of
but
time in.
may have the most ugliest looking cars on the track, but he seems to be doing pretty well.
No way, man. He's got that
Van Halen
body. I think that's amazing.
It's got
Well,
I
that
can't miss it, and it's
fucking.
like
He had
I love it.
he had a Van Halen bug. It alligator on him.
Turn one of your mics off, Alan. I don't know whether you've got you've got two mics on or something. You've
Yeah,
got
I got his mic.
mad echo. Yeah, somebody called Binky Griffin. I don't know who that is, but yeah, back to Dennis Brew. He has like a nitro. He has a techno nitro buggy, I think, and the body is just like ready to fall off that thing. Ray, a couple of new names: Binky Griffin and Ryan Moscoso. And Steve Werner. Not heard of any of those guys, but maybe they're new to the hobby. I'm not sure. But always good. Nitro Truggy. 11 Nitro Truggies, which is actually, not terrible. Nitro Truggy seems to be sort of dying off a little bit in the Northeast, replaced by Electric Truggy, which I know you guys are totally into. Aiden taking down the win. Davis Taylor been running successfully.
That was a great race, by the way.
That was
I'm
a
sorry,
great
Tony.
race.
That was a great race, and basically, your son is the heavyweight there. He was the one that was basically, destined to win. But Davis Taylor, man, that was probably the best race I've seen Davis Taylor throw down ever. I mean, he was like on it the entire time. I was so happy for him, man. Yeah, I was high-fiving him done. I told him, I said, that was the best fucking race you ever had, buddy.
Yeah, I think this is the first year he's been running Electric Truggy, and he's been doing really well with it. I've seen him battle at LCRC with a couple of drivers. Really looks fast. So it's good to see.
I think the car has a little bit to do with it too. It's got that split battery pack, Tom Petrella.
He's running he's running that Kyosho MP10T. So it looks real good. Kenny Jeffries, BB, Chase, Steve Suchuk, I don't know. Anyway, it's Sechak.
He won the Power Wheels.
Is that like Pat Sajak?
Yeah,
Kind
well,
of? No.
a few names there I've not heard of, but yeah, good to see. So pretty decent turnout. First Mako race. Round 2 is October the 8th at the barn. So that's the conclusion of that series. If we just roll forward a little bit to the most recent cancer race, which was this past weekend. So I don't know who's attended that race before. I'm sure lots of viewers viewers and listeners of this podcast have attended. It's been going on for, I believe, this might be 21st year or something. But this
Wow.
year it was taken over by LCRC. The gentleman who used to organize it wanted to step down, so they took it over themselves. Generated about $17,000 worth from donations for cancer research. Most of this was generated through donations from kits and accessories and even non-RC stuff. I mean, there was just like crazy raffle. And there was other things like, on one of the evenings they had bingo and there was the usual cornholes. And then, so all the money from those events and the raffles and the entries all went into a big pot. So they generated, like I said, 17 grand, 258 entries, which is pretty modest compared to previous years. They're around 422, 338, and 21. So, considering a relatively low entry count, 17 grand is pretty impressive. So just
Speaking of all those donations, Toby,
Hmm.
Alan donated on behalf of his business a really awesome ride-on electric vehicle. I don't know if you saw it or remembered it being raffled off, but that was
yeah.
one of Alan's donations. Yeah, so that was really nice, Alan. That was awesome of you and your contribution towards the cancer fund that they're working for. So really cool. Anybody see that? Alan had rigged it up with some of the mods from his business.
Yeah, it was like the
Sweet.
climatic prize. That was the last one drawn right at the end, I believe. So
Yeah, it was actually Steve Sadichuk won that. I
yeah,
was happy to do it. It was St. Jude's that benefited.
that's
Can't
right.
hear you. Could you hear him, Toby? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
St. Jude's. So that was super cool. There was all kinds of prizes from car kits, nitro engines, motors, batteries, and then like booze and all kinds of goofy things. Just really impressive. I won myself a couple of things. I got a signed Mayfield body, which is pretty cool, and a signed Adam Drake body, which was pretty neat. So they'll go on the wall with the Rana Falk and Lutz bodies I have. So, but back to the results. So like I said, 258 entries, pretty solid. Nitro buggy, no pros really. Ciccarello was there. So he's pro-like. He's old, 40 plus. They wouldn't let him run 40 plus, thank God. Greg Harmer, Schreffler again, 1-2. Greg TQ'd and won both electric and nitro. Ciccarello, Justin Drinks, that's where he scored his points, moving him up top 25. Tony Mantle, Brett Butters, Kaufman, Burns, Loy, and Henry. Burns also scoring a few points, moving him up. Harmer again in electric buggy. Daniel Sedler, which he's a Connecticut or
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire driver.
Techno boy.
Yeah, he's one of the techno crew, looking fast as always. Ciccarello again, James Doherty, Brent Butter, Ezra, Carl Lloyd, Justin Drinks, Jake Blood, and Thomas Kaufman. Top 10 electric buggy. Sheffield didn't run buggy. He ran Nitro Truggy, which I believe he won. Yeah, he did. He won Nitro Truggy. Brent Butter. The Angry Elf, Matt Navoso coming in third. Cody Sainer, Cataldo, Dennis Brew. Look at him. In 6th in the A sort of nitro buggy of 24 nitro truckies. David Scott, another techno guy. James Henry, Joe LaPlante, whatever. Dominic
I gotta,
Valentine.
gotta shout out Dennis Grew. He bought a truggy from Jared Tebow that he had built. Never ran it before, put it out on the track. Did pretty darn well with that.
Oh, his old techno.
No, he bought a brand new build that Tebow did for him.
Oh wow,
Yeah, autographed chassis.
very nice. Yeah, it's a great truck. Electric truggy, probably the biggest class as it seems to be on the northeast coast. We got 46 drivers. Ciccarello taking it down. Brent Butters, Jared Barden coming down, running some little electric truggy. Tony Mantle, James Doherty, David Harvey. I think it's the first time I've seen Harvey running electric truggy. He probably got sick of nitro. Gavin Nipple, Zach Mazurek, and Brody Trehorn. Mike Barkus. That's your nitro truggies. And then we had a decent small group of 4-drive short courses, and not forgetting 40 plus, which of course Tom Petrella TQing. You TQ'd? Oh no, in nitro, Tom.
I did. I'll be honest.
Pretty good.
I was doing the rain dance. I figured I was going to be the guy, the 6th guy on the podium after I, totally choked. That would just be the picture of the TQ award, and that would be it. But
Yeah.
got lucky.
And yeah, I think it was pretty close between you and Adam, right?
It was. I messed up in the last turn, thought I gave it up, and then I think he looked at me wreck, and he piped it himself, and the marshal was coming to get me first, and that was on the last lap. Pretty lucky.
Yeah, I seem to remember some excitement. I was busy schlepping it around at the in 10th, getting wrecked by Paul Dalton. Adam Curry
You're still pretty
second.
good this weekend, though. You had some good runs.
Oh, car was great. Drives itself. Rob Pierce in 3rd, James Henry, Jason Holy Brew again, top 6 out of 25. Tim Voss, Dalton and myself, and Randy Heil. That's your nitro 40 pluses, and then Tom again taken down. Buggy, Mike Barkus. Now Don Hillard, his was the car that caught fire, right?
Yeah.
Don.
Yeah, he had a light explode.
Yeah, pretty epic fire on the track. I think round 2. Pretty much first lap, or maybe even warm up.
It was
Yeah,
on the warm-up lap.
We were on the warm up.
On the
Yeah,
warm-up lap.
we were in that.
He was
and
just
we had to
going.
stop.
Yeah, we were had to stop on the track. He was just going through the double sort of cross towny section, and his car just fucking went nuts, just like a massive mushroom cloud of smoke followed by a fire. It was pretty wild.
It
But,
melted the whole center section.
Yeah, no wonder. I mean, it was one of the most violent fires I've seen in a while. Like literally just flames blasting out of it.
Pulled out his 2.0 car that he had retired, put it together, and still finished top 5 in.
Yeah, 3rd. Dwayne Gutschall, Rob Pierce.
I think you'd call that flames to finish.
Yeah, for real. Still pretty good considering Aaron Rowley.
Vinny, are you alive down there?
Huh?
I'm just checking to make sure Vinny's alive down there. He hasn't moved. He hasn't moved at all. I just wanted to make sure his feed was still good.
Adam Placer putting it in the top 10 in 40 plus electric buggy. So
Good job, AP.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
So I guess that's kind of like a roundup for the area and your top 25. I'll get the top 25 published this week as well as the electric buggy stuff once I pull my finger out of my ass, as they say.
Toby, a lot of guys really happy with your top 25 list. So
That's good to
Good
hear.
job.
Yeah. I was chatting to Casey Kelly, I think it was, who said it was his first season. And he couldn't make any more races, but he's sitting 11th right now. It's pretty impressive for somebody in their first season.
Natural talent.
Yeah.
So we got a guest tonight. Do you have any more stats to go over before I jump into the guest?
Yeah, I finished rambling.
Advantage of a moment of silence.
Move along.
I didn't get. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to clearly define before. Alan's a good friend of mine, and as a result of that, I was helping him, and he's going to join us on the podcast tonight. So that's my buddy Alan Placer. Some of you guys know him on the podcast, of course. Anybody who doesn't, he and his family had one of the largest hobby stores in the state of New Jersey the entire time that I grew up in our local area. And if it was not as a result of my grandfather, great man, and Toys R Us being out of some radio controlled truck that I wanted at the time, don't remember the name, just remember wanted something. We ended up at Alan's family store, and I ended up getting a Super Champ. And I never forget that day, because of course got me into the whole hobby that we love as a result of that. And never forget my grandmother bitching at my grandfather about how he spent like $200 or something on the kit back then, and about how I was never going to touch it after a week, and how that was a horrible decision. And I was so young, I couldn't put that kit together. My brother put it together for me. He was about 6 years older than I am, which was great. And then I never forget rolling that thing in the beach, because of course, I think I saw the Tamiya video or the magazine. They showed that thing like cruising on the beach. I was down in Florida with my parents on vacation. I'm cruising on the beach with that thing, and next thing you know, I turn, and if anybody knows that car, Super Champ, it had a suspension kind of like sagged down like that really bad. So you take a turn, and all the roll goes to one side, so the thing flipped over right as a wave was coming. The waves took it, sucked it in. I was like, ran in, got the car, came out. Anyway, that's there you go. Exactly. So show the rear end on that thing. Yes. It's like a set of bull's balls hanging down.
Got this friggin' rad bottle of oil on the back for no particular reason, but it's super cool.
What are you talking about, dude? That thing increased the shock dampening performance.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I've got a brand new fighting buggy as well, hanging on in the box, which is the re-release of that car.
I'm not sure what's more dramatic on that car, though, the positive camber or the extreme towing. One of the two.
The way to make that thing race ready was you had to use the back to
hold it up the other way, though. Hold it straight up and down. Look at the towing.
Hang on, it's hard to go. Yeah. Woo!
Those knobby tires work great on a rubber gym floor, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, carpet. Probably good on your track,
Petrella.
In or out.
Probably the grip will be gone in 5 seconds. Anyway, should we get Joe in here?
Yeah, but anyway, that was the point. So anyway, good segue. Alan been involved in the hobby a long time, and then we've been going racing for a long time. So that's the full circle on that. Let's get to Joe.
All right, so yeah, let's bring him in. Joe.
Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Excellent.
I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, sound good. Sound good.
Oh.
So
you want to go ahead, Toby? I'm sorry.
So yeah, we'll be 9 episodes in here, and one of the ideas behind this podcast was to talk about people and races in the Northeast from all different skill levels. So we've had some 40+ guys, we've had some fast guys, and I think it's important to also have people who are newer to the hobby, so they can talk about their experiences as they're coming up.
I was waiting on the call for that fast guy interview, but it never came. So
we'll come back to you and
give me a couple years, a few years, we'll get it.
No. So then, we wanted to bring someone who's new to the hobby, who I think who's kind of weathered the storm. A lot of people come and go in this hobby. They come, they try a few things, they realize, it's either more than they can chew, or they
It's
You know.
stressful. It's frustrating. It costs a lot
Yeah.
of money, and the combination of the three is.
Yeah, they dump a ton of money into it, and then they're like, "Oh shit, I got to pay the bills or whatever." There's like a whole magnitude of reasons why people don't stick around. So, Joe's is young, enthusiastic. So that's kind of one of the reasons we brought him on. Talk about that stuff. Hi,
Appreciate you
George.
guys. Hang out and bullshit for a little while on a Wednesday night.
So, part of the controversy before you came on was how to address you properly. So,
I heard
you heard me before. Perfect.
You're all good. I'm a man of comedy. So, and it also just makes sense. Like Toby said, I'm coming up. I'm finding my groove.
Exactly.
I'm learning just like everybody else did. And my name is Joe. So I give you the credit for thinking of it and rolling with it.
Well, that's why I'm going to properly introduce you here this evening. So, the Northeast RC Racer podcast, as Toby mentioned, is welcoming Average Joe Johnson to the podcast, right? And average is not a negative statement here, right? Because when you come into RC, unless you're some, pinball wizard, as an example, you're going to be an average guy for a little bit, right? Until you figure out what's going on.
We're learning. We made it. I made it through Sportsman. And then now it's just, it's playing a ladder game. You're not going to see that A main for a while, unless I want to put in the practice like I should be. I get out there and practice a little more if I want to be faster. But
he's driving the right cars now, so that's a good start.
There's nothing wrong with those associated cars. I still got all my carpet cars, but I'm a free agent. I'm just waiting for the right offer. So
that's the way to go.
I didn't even switch to HP. He said he's got the right cars now. I didn't realize he went to HP. Good stuff.
That's it.
Toby's biting his tongue.
Pushing the flag, Tom. It's all good, brother, and it's a great brand. So why wouldn't you want to try it? But that's actually one of the beginning questions, right? So you're a guy with my experience, meaning what tracks that I've been out to and have seen, right? I saw you basically at Barnstormers. I don't know if you had been other places or you lived close to the barn, but that's basically one of the first places that I had seen you come out. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you found the hobby? I don't know if you were a previous RC racer in a different capacity and then you just came out to A-Scale, or whether or not you had some friends involved in the hobby. But tell us a little bit how you found at least A-Scale off-road, or started in the hobby, and how you got to A-Scale off-road.
So basically, when I was young, I mean, we were always young. We had dirt bikes, ATVs, everything. I was the only kid that was interested in RC cars. And I didn't take it too far back then. I had a Savage. I also had no patience and a hot head. So tuning really wasn't, although, I could tune a weed whacker, work on engines, but tuning to performance and having stuff work the way you wanted is a whole different ballgame. I remember trading my Savage for a paintball gun or something when I was like 15. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm over it. I knew nothing about how far electric had come as far as how fast they were. To me, nitro is going to be faster. It's burning nitromethane. It's flying around. And then I lost interest probably till I was about 25 maybe. And then I think I got another Savage. I picked up where I left off and I went on Marketplace and I bought a Savage that didn't run. Had a little more patience this time and kind of broke it down, figured it out, threw some new bearings in it, got it running right. And then I played with that for a while. Again, just life, lost interest in the thing. And then I think I probably put it down for about a year. And then I picked it back up again. And I broke it the first time out, smashed it right into a curb, blew it to pieces. So I'm living in Highbridge now. I'm about 20 minutes from Trains, right over the border in Jersey. So
by me. You're close to me.
Shops by me and Trains pops up. So I went down I called, I think Brian answered the phone actually. I called him. I said, hey, I'm looking for all this stuff for a Savage. And he had a bunch of it. So I went down to get that. And I think it must have been, that was 2021, right before COVID, something like that. And I think I came and it was HB race days. And I saw all the tents and I saw everybody. And I went, what the hell's going on over there? So I walked over, I saw everybody. They were running a nitro race. I don't know what it was, qualifier of some sort. And my jaw just dropped. And I stood there and I was like, this is this is gnarly, man. I was like, I
Good
gotta
song.
be a part of whatever this is. So I was like, I'll tell you right now, they're not racing savages around that track. And I didn't know nothing about buggies, e-buggy or nitro. I just knew, bashers and stuff like that. I walked around and started talking to people. And then somebody told me, go on Facebook. You want to check it out? You find on Facebook, go on Trains and Lanes. Then from there, I needed a car. So I started looking at cars. I realized I was like, I'm not buying a new kit. I can't afford, a B4 or the newest Kyosho or anything like that. So I think I asked the question. I was like, hey, what cars do I need? Where can I find some cars? And Vin pointed me in the right direction to help me find a 3.2. I started with nitro, and I said I was only going to run nitro. I bought a roller, and then Vin helped me get that built with some electronics and everything else it needed because it wasn't complete when I bought the thing. And got that up and running, realized I needed, a starter box and everything. So the first year is a tough one. When you're running nitro and you realize, oh, I need this. And then every weekend out, okay, well, I need this or I want this because it's going to make my life a little easier. And I thought fuel was the expensive part of running nitro. Fuel's nothing, man. And then, so I fell in love with it. And another big thing to me, I noticed immediately when I started going to races, I was like, I met a few cool people. I met Vin to begin with. And then I was like, there's a big sense of community around all these people. Everybody's helping each other. And I like putting my energy where it's reciprocated. And it's just, I realized I was like, I don't know nobody, I break something and then everybody just go ask somebody. Here, go ask this guy. And everybody pointed me in the right direction to kind of help me out. And that was a real big help on getting me started and, wanting to be around the scene of RC racing. It's one of the best things that's ever happened to me because it's what I do every weekend now.
Dude, that's like the greatest RC story for average fucking Joe. That's all.
I've told it so many times. Everybody's like, oh, people think I'm fast because of who I hang out with. So now I hang out with Vin and his family when I came in, and I'm driving the Associated cars, and people ask me at LCRC for setup tips and stuff, and I'm like, I'm gonna point you in the right direction over here. I don't know just yet. I'm still learning, exactly what tire I should be on for what conditions.
Good luck with that.
And and why I'm changing my diffs, and what actual functions I'm changing on the car and what I'm getting out of it.
Well, you're hanging out with the right guy to figure out half of that stuff. That's for sure. And
Vin and his family, the boys, I can't say enough good things about them. Everybody thinks I'm over on Team Kyosho now. I just happen to hang out in Davis's trailer a lot.
That's a follow-up question.
Yeah, we'll get to me and Davis Taylor because I made a very good friend in him. That's another big help in my RC career too.
So when you first came to, what was the first track you ended up hitting? Was it Trains?
I was supposed to be going to Trains, and then the car was ready, everything was ready. The weather was nice. I said, that's it. I'm going by myself. I don't need nobody. I'm just gonna go. If I throw the car on the track and it shits out, it shits out. So I ended up, I was running novice. I got there. I got all set up. Everything was going good. I don't remember where I placed, but I finished, and that was the barn. That was the day I got nailed in the head with the nitro buggy. Jamie Gray, nitro buggy. I know everybody's waiting. When's he going to talk about getting hit in the face with the nitro buggy?
Toby, we have to find Joe's post. It wasn't somebody else did it. Fucking Joe posted it.
I had it.
It was the classic meme, right? I guess you'd call it today. Can't keep track of all this shit. But Joe himself posted the most classic meme. As we're talking, Joe, if you can actually send it to Toby on Messenger, he might be able to post it. Dude, it is literally when you posted that, I almost spit my coffee up that day at work, man. When I saw it.
A buddy of mine made that as soon as I sent him the picture.
It was,
I didn't see it, but now I got to see it.
Oh, you will.
I'll get it to you in 2 seconds.
So listen, it's not funny, right? He ended up getting clipped in the head.
No, I mean, I was fine. I've been knocked in the head. I've been riding dirt bikes and everything my whole life. I have a sense of, when I'm okay. But everybody, especially Kevin Winters, has literally gone through severe head trauma. So, when you see something like that, it's kind of everybody get the hell out of the way. I want to know what's happening right now. Everybody thought I got knocked out. I didn't get knocked out. What was happening, I understood. It was my first race. So granted, I was giving Marshall my all. And I understood, clearly it's like crossing a fucking road. We've been playing Frogger our whole life. Pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention. You got to run down the track. Make sure there's no cars coming. I just got too into it. And I saw there was a big pile up after that big triple that everybody was having problems with. I said, I'm going to get out there with all my ambition, flip those cars. I went and flipped one. I flipped the second, and I was smart enough to go, you should make sure there's no more cars coming. I turned, and bam! I went, and then I was like on my knees, and somebody went, lay down. Just lay down.
Don't move.
I was all right. And then, I had a nice shiner, which was nice explaining to work for the next week. I got hit in the head by an RC car. Yeah, bullshit.
I'm laughing with you, not at you, by the way. I'm laughing
you laugh
with
at
you.
me, it's all you want. That was, hey, if I stuck around after that one.
Yeah. Well, at least you're an enthusiastic Marshall. Not many of them around.
Marshalling to me is one, and it irritates a lot of people, and I don't care who it irritates. It is one of those things that shows a lot of character about you. If it doesn't matter what aspect of life you're in. To me, it's if you're gonna, it's fair. If you're gonna, race and you're expected to marshal, you go do it. If you're expected to go to work, you go to work. If you're expected to be somewhere on time, you get there at kind of on time. It's just one of those things that if you don't do it deliberately, you're a dick, and everybody can see you're a dick. Yeah. My buddy Chris made that, and I love that he doesn't know anything about RC, so he Googled and he grabbed a 5th scale car, hitting me in the head.
Episode 9, epic. That's all I have to say. Average Joe wins. There's gonna be more people watch this than Paul Ciccarelli.
He's gonna love this.
What did it say? I was trying to read what it said there. I didn't see you on the what?
I didn't see you something.
Hang on.
I was muted out by myself.
You're good.
All
You
I
were
wanted to
good.
say-
Other side of that.
Was that
chart.
good? Did anybody hear that through Alan's? I'm sorry. That was great. Joe, you're the best.
Joe, does it count if you pay your marshals?
I love at LCRC. I love those kids hustle, man.
Yeah.
That is a great business, and hats off to those kids for going out there and doing the job that grown men should be doing.
Yep. I haven't marshaled in months.
That's awesome. How much do they charge?
So for 3 classes, I paid $55.
Damn,
For the whole
they're
weekend.
in.
You see, the kid's got a banner now. He actually has a banner hanging up.
Yeah. He's got
Marshalling
business
service,
cards
everything.
too.
I
That
like
kid's
that
going
kid.
places. Good for him.
Got business
Yeah.
cards too.
If he's smart, I'll have another friend doing like bearing services.
Well, no, somebody said he had one race. He had 2 people in one race, so he had his mom out there. I'm like, oh, you're a subcontractor now.
I believe Dennis Brew gave him an RC car setup for the covering for the whole season.
Really?
Gave the kid a car. How cool is that?
That's awesome. I give the kid a ton of credit. What Rylan, right? I think his name is Rylan.
There's a couple of them that do it now.
Yeah, there's a couple of
There's
them.
3 of them. Yeah.
Good for them.
So, Joe, let me ask you a question. When you started in the hobby and you showed up at the track, you had the Savage, right? So, after the Savage, what brand did you jump to?
I went to Associated because that's what Vin was. I kind of just went under Vin's, but I said, hey, what am I doing in this hobby and what do I need to get started? And
Okay, and
3.2s then were readily available on Marketplace. So that was pretty easy to do. So I started with the 3.2 Nitro, and then I was going to focus on that, and I jumped ship and I went right to a 3.2 e-buggy also. So I figured running the e-buggy and the Nitro, I got more track time. It's kind of boring sitting there all day. I realized real quick if you're not running more than one class. Novice was stressful enough just trying to get around the track and time jumps and just be a little more consistent. a big thing with me is just kind of staying calm on the stand. Yeah, we're racing RC cars here. No, but everybody gets to go home at the end of the day.
Absolutely. It doesn't mean that nerves don't play a part in it. Everybody deals with a different level of nerves depending. Handshaking.
Yeah,
Don't sit next to Alan
Toby's got
anywhere
to
you
get some
close on the
video of
stand.
just everybody's remotes, like some close-ups of like the regular Joe, like from the regular Joe or novice race all the way to the pro, and show like the difference between the hand movements. Like,
Yeah.
As far as the cars go, Associated definitely got me started in the hobby, and Associated is still keeping me going in the hobby because I still run. Like I said, I'm nobody at the end of the day, so what I run doesn't matter. And if I'm in something I'm very interested in, and everybody's telling me, "Oh, you got one of those pillow ball cars, you got to try a C-Hub car," and I didn't even know what that meant. So it would be silly of me, as I do get faster over the years, when I'm not committed to this or to that, even if it's just small sponsorships and stuff, I want to do, when I'm not committed to anything, then I'll run any brand that's out there just to, see what it's like and learn a little bit and know the difference between running a pillow ball car for a season and a C-Hub car for a season and stuff like that.
you should hang out with Toby more.
I was hanging out with Toby the other day. He was telling me all about how you couldn't get the podcast going.
Toby's only commitment, I think, is his wife.
Pretty much.
That's the only person I like to hang out with is my wife, other than you guys.
Well,
I got my RC buddies and my wife.
Good to be a free agent for sure, right? Nothing to have to be able to commit to for sure.
Yep. 100%.
So, Joe, everything that you've said right now was like basically a whole bunch of the questions that I had for you. One of the ones that
I kind of ramble.
No, it's great because one of the big questions I had for you was how you felt the actual RC community was embracing your arrival, and the way that you explained it was you already explained it. It was perfect. It was awesome. So I'm not going to sit and waste the time. I have another question or two for you because we have some other stuff that we're going to cover on the podcast as well, and I like to be able to leave some room for the other guys to hop in and ask some questions. So, Alan, Tom, Toby. Got any questions for Average Joe?
Well, we didn't hear the connection to Davis Taylor yet.
Yeah. So I met Davis Taylor digging in a recycling bin for old tires my novice season. And I was at LCRC. I was pretty nervous going out there. Vin was out there, but other than that, it's kind of like going to high school for the first time. I don't know nobody, and I'm going to need stuff from people. And so you got to kind of go make new friends. You just got to tap shoulders and have conversations, which clearly that's kind of my thing. So I was talking to somebody about how expensive tires were and what tires I should buy because I knew really less than I know about tires now. And Davis came over. And I started talking to him, and he goes, "What are you looking for, tires?" And I think it was at the Mugen Challenge, so there were a lot of pros there. And he goes, "Come with me." And he took me over to the recycling can over there, and he goes, "All these tires are perfectly fine for you." He goes, "They won't run them. They probably got 2-3 runs on them for them." So he goes, "Go find, 2-3 sets you can use for the weekend. You don't have to buy tires." So I went. He goes, "Just dump the whole thing out." He goes, "You got to find the same compound. You got to find the same tread pattern, and then you got to find the same wheel." I go, "What's a compound?" And then, we were all going through that. So, and then we just kind of hit it off. We got the same energy, and we're kind of the same guy. And every question I have, just like Vin, I bounce it off of all of them. And me and Davis at the track, it works really well because we both run nitro, we both run electric, and we're both pretty high energy. So as far as anything each other needs or anybody in or around our pit area, James Henry is always helping us out. Great guy. And it really worked out to have met and just got along with. It was pretty organic. A lot of people in a hobby that I'm so passionate about. It's like they say effort is a direct result of passion. And I put more effort into being at RC races. I'll take off work, as to the extent that I can and everything just to get to these races because it's really my favorite place to be. is at that track. Even the stress of nitro. On my worst days, like I left this thing. You all know this. I left this out in minor condensation, and I had no throttle in the morning. My whole morning at LCRC went to hell. And Hammer came over, James Henry, and he goes, "Did you blow it out?" So he goes, "There's a potentiometer in there. You got to blow it out." So we blew it out. We got it all back on the track, receivers, cars working again. And then the cars felt better than they ever had all day until, unfortunately, in LCRC, I cooked a motor in e-buggy. So that was the end of that. But nitro went really well for me. Car felt great all day. And we ran mains that night. I was 4th in the D main, ended up being able to put my head down and drive, and got the second bump spot into the C main. That's my first bump that's not in Sportsman. So that was pretty cool. Have Hammer and Davis down there, go, 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 go. So it was a pretty cool moment for me. That's how I take my wins. And I think that's how you got to take your wins when you're coming up that main ladder. Because to me, that night felt better than, my wins in Sportsman. Because a lot more went into it. I tuned the car felt better. And then I made up one spot in the C main, but just getting that bump spot into the C main made my weekend. It was a good time.
That's awesome. That's the story. That's why we all go out, right? It's for that feeling. It's for that little adrenaline pump. It's for being on the driver's stand, your boys cheering you down below, the high five when you get done. Sometimes, winning the D main can, set your ride home being perfect, right?
That's one step closer than you were the week before. So it means you did something right. And as long as you're doing something a little more right every weekend, just consistency.
Well, I think what's always lost, and I'm sure all of these guys will agree, is that, everybody focuses on A1, right? Top position in the A main. But at the end of the day, there's a million of unsung heroes. And that's why I wanted to start the podcast, was really talking about, guys that normally don't get recognition. So at the end of the day, whether it's a 40-plus win or TQ, Tom Petrella, or it's average Joe Johnson, moving up from whatever mean it was before. I think that's awesome. That's awesome.
I got 10 more years and I'll be able to run 40-plus. Looking forward to it.
Sorry, I'm
you.
pushing for a 50-plus class. Too many fast guys coming up.
Yeah, sandbaggers. Tom, you're not 63, are you?
No.
I'm going to say, fucking Facebook, I'm like, 63 ain't that old.
No. Just turned 50. Come on, don't put 13 years on me.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, there's no fucking way.
They tell me you're so funny in the beginning. Every time I'm like interacting with Petrella, I think he's like our age, and he's actually the younger guy. Tom P is he's the baby of the podcast, actually.
Oh,
not considered as the guest, but as the group members. Like even tonight, Alan's older than you. I'm older than you.
Alan looks a lot better than I do, though.
Well, that's a whole other podcast.
Don't get cocky, Alan. It's only me you're comparing against.
that's
All right.
That's the wrenching on the HB cars that, adds like 5 years onto your life.
Stop it. Just trying to get the diffs out. It's a pain in the ass.
Exactly. Or changing the D block or the C block.
Yeah, you got to, you'll have to miss your next round in order to accomplish that.
Yeah, well, one thing I will say about these Kyosho's is that A block is some bullshit. I got to knock it in there with a hammer to get the damn thing to go back in.
Yeah, the front blocks suck. That's a couple of things that annoy me about the car is those the AB blocks, the fucking tank with no clunk.
What's that mean, no clunk?
Well, in a nitro car, you have when a thing flips over, there's a little thing called a clunk, which is the stupidest name, but it's basically kind of like a little weighted filter that hangs on tubing. So when the car goes upside down, the tubing.
It's a dead weight for the fuel tube.
Yeah, so you'd have less risk of flaming out when your marshal gets hit in the head by a car or something, is lipping across the track.
Well, everybody says that's why I'm getting faster now, because I got hit by the fastest guy on the track my first day out.
Who was it who hit you? Do you know?
No.
Jamie.
Jamie Graham.
Oh,
Jamie
okay.
Gray.
Jamie Gray. I'm sorry.
Best guy to hit you then, right?
That
for
poor
sure.
guy. I'm so sorry. I was like, Jamie, it's not your fault. I jumped in front of your car. I know it kind of sucks, but I did jump in front of your car.
You don't even
Nice.
realize he was so fast, dude. He was already on the brakes in the air and scrubbed off like 2 miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All I can say is thank God the chassis of that car hit me, because had the front bumper concentrated all that into the side of my head, it wouldn't have been good.
No.
So, check this out. I forget what Motorama it was. Alan Placer and I are there at Motorama, right? And this was like at least 5 years ago, where they used to have like epic big air jumps, right? So there is a guy that ends up taking a truggy to the head over the biggest jump that they have. So like the trucks are hitting it at like 30 miles an hour at least, right? It was like a 40-foot soar. Alan, mute up. There was like a 40-foot soar from the jump. This guy took it right in the temple, hit the ground, and his body literally went into convulsions.
Oh my God.
Any of us that were there watching it were like in horror, like just waiting to make sure the guy got up. He didn't get up. He got up on a stretcher and they hauled him out. But it was like horrifying of Toby. Horrifying.
Yeah,
I mean,
God.
the car's soaring, right? You're seeing this thing. The guy who jumped it had like perfect air, perfect trajectory. Next thing you know, he was only about 5 feet off the jump. And the marshal didn't even know it was coming, dude. And anyway, that was probably the worst hit I've seen. I think, you're in the hobby long enough, you're gonna have a scar from catching a car the wrong way. I got one from my first visit at LCRC on my shin.
That opens up a brief rant, but people talk about layouts needing that kind of shit going on. It's just not safe. You know what I mean? When you design a track. You can't have jumps like that. You gotta account for marshals, dangerous situations, so it's just not safe. I think I know which layout you're talking about. There used to be, there was that massive jump kind of right in the middle of a track, and you saw it from the driver's stand. The car would go flying through the air. I bet you
there was a spot out there. I remember going. I refused to marshal that spot. I mean, I always try to.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys. I purposely, as soon as I'm done racing, I get out there as soon as I can because I want to pick a good marshal.
You want.
Yeah, 100%.
I won't put myself in that situation. That's crazy.
No,
The marshal spot should never be on the downside.
no.
Another thing I'll throw in there as far as marshaling goes, these guys that put their kids out there that either they don't want to marshal, they're too busy, that put these young kids, young girls out there that just don't have the situational awareness to be out there and they might be quick. I get it. They're trying, but I don't think we should have young kids on a lot of these tracks, and I see it.
No, if it's just like a little 10 scale track, that's okay. But
either IFMAR or ROAR has a rule that you have to be at least 14 to marshal.
Good. Yeah.
We need to hear Joe's rant. We already had heard his rant about, you got to marshal after you race, but what's the rant for,
You do.
No, I'm with you. I agree. Look at my tagline. I changed it. You marshal after your race.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's very simple.
Nice
things that it immediately shows your character. And I've seen people, they get fed up. I've walked off that stand and said, I'm not racing RC cars anymore, but my ass is out there and marshaling. It's just one of those things that it shows character. And a lot of the times it also depends. It's hard for the tracks to be on top of marshaling. It's not really their job to control a bunch of grown men. But at the same time, they kind of try, and some tracks are harder on it than others. And it is what it is. At the end of the day, it's just like anything else in life. It's you show your character.
So, Average Joe, let me ask you a question. Are you saying that there's not a lot of character at RC tracks? And I don't mean the track condition.
Lord, I wouldn't go that far.
Well, ultimately, there's a problem, right? Marshaling, no matter what track you go to, and you just said
I think you have. I think you have a lot of great characters.
Well, not an LCRC
at RC tracks.
Right. I'm not picking a bone here. What I'm trying to say in general is that, like, I agree with what your statement was. Toby, come on, hang in there.
Well, I wouldn't say I wouldn't word it as there's not a lot of character at RC tracks. There may not be a lot of character in the marshaling of RC tracks, but
That's my point, though. Like
Yeah.
your statement, I think is spot on, right? So the reason you're out there is because you have good character, right? So what needs to happen, because I've noted like marshalling's always like this bullshit thing, right? So like ultimately the race day only moves as fast as the race day moves is
Yeah.
when everybody participates, right? So the more people that have character, the more people that are upstanding out there doing the right thing, the faster the program moves. Petrello's out there looking for a great spot because he doesn't want to get clipped in the head. Plus, he wants to get it over with, so he's getting out there, getting it over with. And he's also somebody that, you know, let's be honest, it's not in good character for somebody like Tom who runs a track not to be out there as one of the first guys. But irregardless, I know Tom.
It's character. I think Joe's right. It's character. It's like that adage of putting the shopping cart back, right? Nobody.
Yeah, it's like putting the shopping cart
back in
away.
the stall, but
Right.
it's the right thing to do.
That's the best way to describe it. It's just like putting the shopping cart away.
Holding the door open. That's what I say, man. That's the way I look at life and people. I say there's two kinds of people in this world. People who hold the door open for others and people that don't.
Very true.
Anyway, moving right along. Toby, you got any questions for Average Joe? Because we got a guy in the bottom left-hand corner with a lot of great advice for an Average Joe, that's for sure.
Firstly, how do you like that Ronda engine?
I didn't actually receive it yet. I left that night. I finished my main. I had my dog. We were sleeping in the Jeep with the dog, and I didn't feel like setting up the tent. So once I finished that main, I was in a great mood. It all went pretty good. So it was late. I packed my stuff up. I got home so I could enjoy my Sunday. And then I actually woke up to a call from Davis saying, "Hey, you won the Ronda engine." And I said, "No way." So I had a pretty good Sunday morning there.
Yeah, so
That's the engine I was gonna buy. So I'm super psyched.
just saved yourself $500-600.
Easy.
Yeah, one of the prizes, George, you won't know because you weren't there, but you know there was kind of a paper bag where everyone put their tickets in, and probably one of the most loaded bags was for that engine. So
yeah, I was super happy about that.
I know I dumped a few dollars in there. So, but no, I mean your story is really kind of like a dream story for this hobby. You know,
I appreciate
just
that,
kind of
guys.
like that sort of coming in fresh with an open mind, sort of, you know, not letting shit bother you specifically, you know, starting off with like a modest setup. I think a lot of people come in and they're like, you know, oh, I got to get a brand new kit. I got to get a brand new radio. I got to get a brand new engine, yada, yada, yada. You know, and you don't need to do that. You know, I mean, if you have someone to give you advice, like Vin, for instance, you know, because a lot of people make a mistake. They buy a ready to run, you know, some ready to run piece of shit with, you know, half of it you got to replace. It's got like Phillips heads on it, and it's got like a shitty old, you know, 28 motor in it or something. You know, it's a big waste of $600, $700. Whereas you could buy a used kit easily, get some help and advice, you know, a decent engine, some decent servos, and get rolling, you know, pretty easily for you know, not too much money, and not have to go back and, you know, get rid of some old shitty ready to run. So it's
yeah, I just sold all the bashing stuff I had to fund my first car, and then that was that. I got a crawler I play with every once in a while.
Yeah,
I got a vintage Associated MGT from the 90s that I rebuilt. That thing's sweet.
What do you do? Do you race during the winter off season?
Yeah, I got my carpet cars all Associated back there.
Yeah,
That's a 7 4.2, 6.1. I run 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive carpet, and then 10 scale sometimes at LCRC.
Gotcha.
I head out usually. DRP is one I'm at a lot.
Okay.
Where else? I'm gonna trains, DRP, traction action, which I can't really say I go to often because I just hate to drive out there.
Yeah, it's a hike.
TNT. I love TNT hobbies. Tully is great out there. some turf every once in a while. If I have the energy on a Wednesday, I'll go run some turf over with Davis at Cruisin'.
Yep.
And then I ran clay a couple times. I have a car set up just for clay. I just didn't do great at all. And I think it was one of those things. I had so many things going on. I said, don't just beat your confidence up sucking at this. Go focus on something else. You're running all these classes, and it's just too much. You need to get a little better before you start putting all this weight on your shoulders.
Plus, yeah, it's all tire prep and tire sauce, and
I had no idea what tire sauce was before I went.
Yeah, it's sort of like a tragic mess as far as I could say off road. So I have one question for you, and I've completely forgotten what it was. Oh well, if it comes back to me, I'll jump in. Anyone else? Questions for Joe?
Vin, you got any questions for Joe or Tom?
Yeah, Vin, you want to go first?
I can't really think of anything right now.
Me and Vin talk on a pretty regular basis, so
yeah.
It's all right. Hold that for setup, Vin. Hold it. Just keep it held in there.
I'm ready.
Well, just for me, Joe, I mean, first of all, I'm going to start off. I don't see as average Joe. We were debating this, but look, you've grown fast. You put a lot of work in, which is impressive, commendable. We don't see enough new blood in this hobby, so it's kind of cool. And I kind of want to ask you a loaded question because I just kind of want to make a statement afterwards. But overall, how would you describe your reception in the hobby as you were asking people questions?
I was welcomed with open arms. And I think by anybody I talk to, I don't think I've met. There's one person in RC that I can't. That's it. I haven't met anybody in RC that I really just didn't click with or didn't help me. Even in a pinch, everybody's willing to help you. And LCRC, I'll give a big shout out to LCRC because the togetherness and the family atmosphere that they provide people and the work that they put in. And it's on their own property, and they're constantly working with the weather. And if they do get weather, they got those guys out there. They got the hay down, the track's ready, and they give me a place to spend a lot of weekends of my free time where I don't have to pay to camp. I have clean bathrooms, and it's a really good spot to spend 4 days. And I think they do a lot for the East Coast community.
Absolutely. So, yeah, just to kind of build on your point quickly, but I guess what I was trying to get to is as we get new racers out there, everybody's listening to this podcast, you have your own engaging people too. You've got to take the time to reach out. People are always willing to help, but you got to be proactive and reach out to them. I love helping people. I think it's awesome. I love having my own track to help people. It's
what I like now is I've got my tuning down pretty good. I was, as far as I could get a nitro engine, 3 years ago, I could get a nitro engine to run and it would be fine. But as far as confidently turning that screwdriver, I can do that now pretty well on the fly. I can listen to an engine pretty quick and go, all right, this is what that needs. So now I see a lot of younger guys or older guys that are just, new to nitro and they're sitting there and man, that thing's leaner than hell. And they're just, I don't know what's going on. And now I like that I can confidently turn that screwdriver. So I can walk over there and go, hey, you want me to give you a hand for a second? Just hold that controller, and I can get them dialed to enough of a point where I know that car is going to run. I know it's not going to flame when it goes over. And then I'll always tell them, after this or something, have Kevin Winters, somebody who really knows a little more than me. And I'll bring him over to Kevin or even like when Drake was there. And one of the highlights of my life that I'll tell you, I've been watching Adam Drake's videos to tune since I had that first Savage, Google, and how do I tune this thing? And I brought my car up and I asked him how the tune was. He went through the car and he didn't have to touch that screwdriver. He told me my tune was perfect, and I'm gonna shit my pants. It was one of the best days.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Good story.
Joe, what's your
One of the
favorite
questions
class?
for
Is
you,
it still
Joe.
nitro?
So I didn't hear you,
Ben. Joe, is where the hell's that recycle can at that has all the tires in it? Because I'm gonna bring some get in there.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, it was the green one by the Oval booth, all the way away from the track.
Pro tip.
So, Joe, what's your favorite class? Is it still nitro?
Yeah, nitro. To me, it's nitro. I'm a mechanic. My hands are dirty all day, all week long. And to be honest, I don't have a huge passion for mechanics. It's my job, but I have a passion for these cars, and I've learned more about I fix diesel machinery, I fix cars, I fix work trucks, stuff like that. So while I know all the ins and outs of these cars, I don't know the performance aspects of them to an extent. Yeah, as far as camber, toe, I don't do alignments or tire work, anything like that. These cars have taught me so much about real life, just the basic setup and performance of how things operate on a car on a scale level. So even just in my everyday life, it's helped me out.
Looking forward to 10 scale.
I love 10 scale. I really enjoy carpet. I thought I was going to have a hard time with it last year. I also thought when I first started racing, my first race, I remember thinking, how am I going to know which car is my car? And I remember that just not being a problem.
You're the car with two different color wheels.
Yeah, right.
Now I run white wheels. I would only run yellow wheels, but now I run. Davis has me on those white wheels.
You've seen the light. The white wheels are faster.
That's right, Tom.
They look less flashy as I have all these yellow wheels behind me.
There's a funny story at Critters one night. There was a few gentlemen that partaked in a little bit of
Herbal essence.
yes, herbal essence, shall we say. And there was this guy, he was racing. There was two white cars on the track, and one of the cars had crashed and broke, but he thought his car was the other car, but he was so fucking high that there were 6 drivers in the driver's stand, but 5 cars on the track. And it was so funny because the race announcer was just calling it like, what's going on? And so this guy thought he was driving someone else's car because he was just so fucking high. It was so funny. It was just, oh my God. So,
Or was his car, Toby?
it was like off to the side, broken, but he just I guess homed in on this other car and didn't even think about the fact he wasn't even driving it.
The turns on the hand, they were matching up.
Yeah, exactly. He was just like, woo, he was out of his fucking mind.
He was killing it.
Yeah, but it was hilarious because the race director was pissing his pants. It's like, there's 6 drivers and 5 cars. What's going on?
You guys have probably seen that too. With people with a Sanwa radio, they leave their car on, they go out and drive another class. You can actually see their car on a table driving around.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're at on the track, by how much throttle they're giving it, where the wheels are turning.
That's always fun when you drive nitro and you leave your electric car and it fucking flies off the table like 1,000 miles an hour.
We were at Trains and Lanes, and I'm standing next to somebody's pit. They had 3 pit walls on, and somebody went up to the driver's stand. There's 2 poor girls just sitting in there, and you just hear all hell break loose inside of this tent. They come running out, and they're like, "What's going on?" And somebody's like, "Turn it off! He's on the stand." They were getting the hell kicked out of him by this car in the tent.
It's easy to happen. Some people just don't understand the whole ID selection thing on the Samba radio.
Yeah, he's right here. He still doesn't understand it.
Yeah, it's not really very understandable. I came from Spectrum way before they brought out that shitty DX6 thing. The classic old DX4R, everyone used to have them. So you never had to think about that with Spectrum, but with Samba, you can easily just program a bunch of channels and they all control the same car. So
This is what Alan's going to show up to the next race with.
I got one to beat that.
Toby, you got everyone made by man.
Yeah, Alan.
Hold on. There's Joe. I think I got that one, Joe.
I still have my associated.
No, not that
There's
one.
I don't know if it's top. I
Toby,
wanted
I got that one.
I got the attack instead.
Yeah.
I still got the big antenna.
Efficient. So Joe,
Oh, that's an old dog.
There you go. Everyone's got one except Petrello. What you do? You got rid of
I
all
have
your
them.
own
But
control?
it's out in the garage. I don't think going to get it.
It's all
I have
right.
an
All good.
XL2P somewhere.
Toby, I bought that same box like maybe
This
9
thing?
months ago. Yep. I had to
Yeah.
have it. I mounted it on my wall right in the
Yeah,
center
it's
of everything, and then I mounted an old
I'm guessing
one
the
of
throttle's on
thumbtacks blow.
the throttle's on the side here. This little
Yeah, you got to wrap your hand around the box.
That was the
and
throttle.
work it with your finger.
nuts. Must have been crazy.
Yeah, if you were right-handed, it was much more difficult.
Yeah.
Left-handed was actually really good
Yeah,
for the throttle. That is.
yeah, exactly. Because you're over here doing that.
Yeah.
Joe, one last question. Being that you're, average, you're new to the hobby, and you've come up from, from being really new. Anything that you think could change, could be done better, sucks, that kind of thing. Any feelings on that kind of thing?
Quality question. I think races could be held on Saturdays. I know that's a conflicting subject of interest for both racers and tracks alike.
Well, club racing's dead. I mean,
Yeah,
basically it's dead.
I mean to me, which it's really neither here nor there to me. To me, it's just if races are on Saturdays, you got all day Sunday.
Yeah,
But it kind of goes both ways. You still got all day on Saturday, yada yada. It seems easier on the body with work.
absolutely.
It is, but for those who are passionate, they suck it up on Monday morning, and their employers just deal with the weak performance of their employees because they weren't racing on Sunday. But at least you had a good race day.
Or they call their boss and say, "Hey, I'm a little concussed. Knocked in the handlebars car yesterday," and then they immediately call bullshit, and then you have to explain what really happened when you get there on Tuesday with a black eye.
Oh, yeah. Well, then your boss was like, "Go home." I got one last and final question, and then we're going to have to fast forward, my friend, and get over to Vin in the bottom of the left-hand corner of the Hollywood Squares this evening. Joe, any big events that you're planning on going to that are outside of the LCRC, sphere of?
I'll be at Motorama. That's a big one. I'll be there. I plan to be there every year. I had a lot of fun there last year, and it's on my birthday every year, or right around there.
Nice.
My birthday's the 16th, so we go out there, we make a weekend of it, get a nice hotel, and hang out. So that's a cool one. And there's so much to do at Motorama too. You get to go see all the other stuff, so that's pretty cool.
Okay, after you've been there 10 years, you don't even leave the RC arena anymore.
Yeah. And then next year, I know I can if I plan it right. I want to try to get to Wicked Weekend.
Nice.
And get out that way.
I know a guy that you might know has got a really big camper.
Yeah.
Not you, Alan. Vin's is bigger than yours, bro. If it was a camper competition.
Vin has
his is bigger than yours, but it's bigger than yours.
Vin told me every time I was there.
A really nice living room. I actually really like Tom's a lot, to be honest with you. So
Tom's got the biggest camper.
His has got like a lot of usable area. Like you can actually go and hang out in there. Mine, it's like we're packed in there like sardines. It's a little tight. The two boys, all our stuff, tires, etc., etc. But
got small kids.
I remember watching Supercross.
I think Dennis Bruce got a pretty nice setup.
Well,
he
Ozzy Osbourne's in his fucking trailer.
Thing's nice.
He puts it on sale every week.
No, that's the other camper. That's the
got
other.
Two?
Yes.
What the fuck?
Within the next year or so, I'll have a nice trailer to be pulling around. We're getting there.
Nice.
I think we need to do Average Joe squared, and we're going to bring Dennis Brew on, and then we'll talk about his advancement RC and double campers next time.
You can call it Daily Brew.
There you go. Well, him and his couple other associates, they got another podcast going, and I recommended it was anything but the A podcast, but they got another awesome thing going. You come up with some
good names, George.
Thanks, buddy. I try. Anyway, Joe, all I got to say is what an awesome podcast. Number 9. I really appreciate it. Number 10, by the way, and we'll get to it. It'll be live, but we're going to talk more about that at the end. But if we had a number 9 that was preceding an awesome 10 that was live, that was really awesome, you just fit the bill, my friend. And I really enjoyed having you. You got a really good personality. And, you are the epitome of what a new racer is coming into the hobby. So, I think all of us appreciate guys like you because you create new energy for, the old grumpy guys like Toby that are out there that we got to light a little fire up underneath them to get out to the track, get excited about what's going on. So
I just want to point out it was my idea.
it was.
I appreciate your time.
There's no doubt. Actually, before we even jump to Vin, and we have to, so we're talking about who's coming on, right? So at the end of the day, for me, like a beginning racer, because this is like, it's following the racers, right? But ultimately, because of course we're under 10 episodes, I want to try to keep it really interesting and have like guys that aren't necessarily the top, but other guys that are coming up through the ranks. So Toby had thrown your name in the hat. And that's the reason you're on tonight. And
Thanks,
when Toby brought it up, sometimes it's like one of these things where I never say no to a good idea. I don't care, what it is, whether it's a podcast or business. When you hear stuff and it makes sense, you just got to go with it. So great job, Toby Hansen.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thanks, Toby. I really appreciate everything you guys say, and it means a lot because I do put a lot of myself, a lot of my time, a lot of my family's time, my fiance. Shout out to her. She pitted me for so many nitro races when I didn't have anybody there my first year. She's out. She knew how to start my car, get that thing warmed up and everything. And I appreciate everything you guys say, and we're going to keep trucking. Hopefully in the next couple of years here, we're on with you again, and we see how much faster we got. We're getting there.
Just don't marry her. She won't want nothing to do with your RC cars then.
Hey, your wife, although I'm sure she's great and been participating, that she can nowhere near have the same glory at this point than Miss Manchanda can have, because she's the one who goes out and deals with 3 boys getting dirty, 3 boys getting moody, right? Normally, I have 2 daughters, so I understand the moodiness, but I can only imagine what it's like having a teenage boy that either has his father screw up in the pits or just have sorry, Vin, have a bad race day, whatever it might be, right? And then she's got to deal with those 3 guys. And meanwhile, she's not racing. She's just part of the scene. And she's like, all I'm looking forward to is going to play 9 holes somewhere within the race weekend, right? Anyway.
She was out there today.
I'm sure she was. She needs some freedom, get the hell away from everybody. But with that being said, Joe, thanks so much. We want you to hang out for the rest of what's going on. I'm not asking you to leave. None of us are. Want you to participate, but we're an hour and 21 in, and Toby starts falling asleep at about an hour and 40 minutes. So I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to get Vin going. So part of what we were doing in this podcast, right? So Vin was on before, but Vin is a huge participant for being a team manager, a team associated. So he was gracious enough to basically reach out to me and Toby and say, would you guys be interested in doing a little bit of setup advice in the podcast? And coincidentally, the same week, Tom Petrella, one of our other co-hosts, said, hey, it'd be a good idea if we got some setup advice coming on in here. And fortunately, we had it all worked out. And I thought it would work best considering we have Average Joe on, or Average Joe Plus, as far as Tom's concerned. And I thought it would be great to incorporate Vin. So we're going to put it to the bottom cube. Vin's going to tell us a little bit, I believe, today just about ride height, right? We're not going to go crazy, but we're going to keep Vin coming into the podcast. I would like to, as we keep going, so that we can talk about setup, because setup for me is something I especially got into over the last year and a half with JQ's book, Invisible Speed, coming out. It's made a big difference in my direct performance at the track when I run. So I think it's awesome for Vin to be able to share stuff. There you go, my man. To be able to share stuff. So where I have to reread every chapter over and over and over and over again, right? Because if we don't, you can read it, but unless you do it, right, it's hard to retain it.
I read it, and then I realized when I'm doing that, when I'm going through my diffs, or I'm going through my shocks, or I'm going through a certain part of the car, then I go to that section of it and I read it, and I learn better doing it.
Oh, it's great.
Car.
It's funny. Part of the group that I race with, like I had reached out to guys like over a year and a half ago as, Corona was happening and we were all at home or whatever, got more involved, right? And that's where the genesis for this podcast came from. But as I was diving into setup, right, there were things that like I just didn't have access to or I didn't understand. So I'd reach out to that local group, and it was almost as if you should be already knowing, right? Or sometimes it's not as open where you can ask questions and get the feedback. So I was trying to like aggregate some information among the group to see if we could come out with a setup guide for the specific car chassis that I was running at the time. Because there was other setup guides for some other manufacturers that you could lean on out there. And during this time, it was something that I wanted to do. Anyway, long story short, I ended up finding Invisible Speed during that time. It was real helpful for me. I love going back and reading it, but let's fast forward. That's what Vinny's going to talk about, which is ride height. So Vin, take it away.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks guys for having me. I'm excited to do this. I love coaching in general and helping people. So this is a great outlet for me as well, to just help everybody and give you guys some basic knowledge. And put in the comments below, everybody, if you have a certain topic that you want to hear about or something you want to know a little bit more about, I'm more than happy to cover it coming forward. But we're going to start like with the real basics, which is ride height. I think everybody should learn how to do ride height, and it doesn't take much. So ride height is basically the distance between the ground and your chassis plate. That's your ride height. How high is that? So you want to set that every time you go out there. And, when you set your ride height, you also want to check your camber. Your camber should coordinate with your ride height. And
hey, Vin, give me 1 second. I'm sorry not to cut you off. I was trying to message Toby, but I don't want it to go too farther without. Toby, can you throw him center stage and bigger so that people can see what Vinny's explaining? You're going to show setup, right? We got to see what you're doing. Tom Petrella, if you'd like to show us ride height. There you go. Just throw a gauge under your car.
One thing I don't know where Vin went, but I know for me, I always measured my ride height in the rear, like basically at the C block. I would just kind of throw the gauge underneath there out of the car, left to right, and actually learn better off actually putting it in the rear and doing it right behind the D block, because you have usually a little bit of a rake, so you're kind of not getting an accurate measurement.
That's what I do, right behind the D block in the back, and then probably right behind the B block in the front.
Yeah, right where the kick up ends.
Or yeah,
That's try to get it where the axles mount in. Where the axles go in, to me, that would be the point that your ride height would be most important.
Well, Vin's going to tell us all about that if we ever get him on here.
There he is.
Exactly. And he's back. I was just trying to get Vinny center stage. So take it away again, Vin.
all right, so I'm just going to quickly show you guys some tools we use right here. This is my ride height gauge, J Concepts. This is my camber gauge. And you put this up against here and check your camber like that. And then this is my ride height gauge, J Concepts as well. And then I use this little caliper here. I'm going to show you guys what I do with that. So, then I have a pit board. I don't know if you guys can see it. Yeah, there you go. This pit is an LCRC pit board. And I'll show you guys how that works in a second. But basically, I start off with the calipers. All right. And what I'll do is, I'll grab the card, I'll just stick this in here and I'll measure the distance between the shock collar and the top. And I'll make sure that the left and right on the back and the left and right in the front are the same. And that's really important. Now, front and rear obviously can be different, and we're going to get into that and into rake and stuff like that in a second. But yeah, that you always want to make sure that in the back we're even and in the front we're even here as well. Okay. This car happens to be a demo car that we're bringing over to Trains and Lanes. This will be for sale. We built this for Trains and Lanes. We just finished it up. It comes with the setup sheet and everything else, and these cool shell straps, a couple factory team parts. But anyway, back to ride height. So after you use the calipers to basically get this in a basic area where it's around the same, you want to there's a couple different ways to check it. All right. So some people like to drop it and let it roll, and do it once or twice, get it to roll. And then
that's me, Vinny. I like that.
We talked about where to check it. So you want to check it right over here where it kicks up, right here where this kicks up. You want to be right back here. Okay. And you want to check your front there. And then the rear, I like to just put it down, and let's say we just dropped it, just check it right here in the back and just make sure, we have an accurate ride height. So there's
So
another,
Vinny,
there's
as
another
you're
thing.
right there, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to bring up some things that guys said, right? So in the front, right, for people that don't know, almost every chassis, the reason you're measuring it on that flat spot is that because in front of that flat spot, right, every chassis has a certain degree of natural kickup, right? So that's why you're measuring behind that.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep. And Tom Petrella was mentioning about how he likes to measure in the back. So is there a reason why you measure that area in the back versus, let's say, where the wheels are centered on the axle or in front of the axle of the rear wheels? You like the measurement all the way in the back?
Personally, I do. And the important thing is to do it the same way every time. So even if we do it differently, as long as we're doing it the same way every time, when we're adjusting our cars accordingly, it's still going to work. So whether it's by the C block or by the D block, as just make sure you do it the same. And we're going to get into how you actually set your ride height. So you're going to be making adjustments, fine-tune adjustments as you go anyway, based on what you want out of the car. So yeah. So we'll get into now. We'll get into the other way that some people are setting their ride height now. A lot of people are flexing their car like this, just basically working in the suspension, lifting it up, pressing it down one more time. And then, obviously make sure these wheels are straight, but, wiggle it like this, press it down, wiggle it like this, lift it up, press it down. And when it rebounds, that's where you check your ride height. And so this is what a lot of the younger pros have told me that they've been doing, and it's been working for them. So as long as you do it the way that works for you and you're consistent about it every single time, do it the same, you should be fine. One of the biggest things is figuring out where to set your ride height. Now we know how to set it, but where do we set our ride height? And is it always the same front and rear? It's not always the same. Sometimes we want to rake the car out. And by rake the car out, I mean, sometimes we want the front to be higher. Sometimes we want the rear to be higher, depending on the track and what kind of car you're driving. So a situation where it's raked out and the front is higher would be like 1/10 scale dirt, where you want the rear end planted and you want the front to push a little bit and you want the car to be really easy to drive. Now, these 8 scale cars, I know my boys and myself, we actually rake the other way and we keep the front end down because we keep, the weight of the car on the nose so that we have, a lot of steering. We're on the nose of the car. It makes you feel a little bit more in the track. You got a lower center of gravity with the front being a little bit lower. And then the rear being a little higher. What happens is as you accelerate, you use the leverage of the car to load the rear, and as it's doing this action of loading the rear, we're pressing the carcass of the tire into the ground, creating more mechanical grip. So if you're looking for, a fast car that's also in the track and planted, you basically want to be on your nose. At least the AE cars respond very well to this, being, a millimeter lower in the front than the rear. It seems to work really, really well for us. And then you can also run your car with the same front and rear. And, you can also raise it up. You can lower it. How do you know what to do? Well, here's the difference. Okay. When the car is a little bit more raised up, what's going to happen is you're going to have more weight transfer. Okay. So it's going to allow the car to roll a little bit more. All right. So that weight transfer and roll is going to give you some more grip. Now, as the grip comes up and we get towards higher grip, it's going to make the car feel a little twitchy. So everything's a give and take. When it starts feeling twitchy, you have to lower the center of gravity and make the car more stable. All right. This higher setup is going to be better accelerating through bumps, bumpier tracks. That's when you're going to want to keep the ride height a little on the higher side. You're going to get more preload off the jumps with it a little bit higher. You're going to have more down travel. So you're going to land jumps a little bit better. But where you're going to suffer is your corner speed. A car is not going to be as planted. So with a lower ride height, what we have is we have a little bit less roll. The car is going to be a little bit more stable. You're going to have a lower center of gravity, which equates to more corner speed. And that's better for high bite situations. There's a little bit less chance of the car flipping over when it's a little bit higher. And we'll talk about eventually things like your roll center and different ways to help with that. But for now, if you're not bottoming out on jumps and the jumps aren't an issue, then you should be at a good ride height. You can try and lower it a little bit more until it starts to, let's say, smack the jump faces, and then the car starts doing weird things off of the jump. Then your ride height's too low. So what we're really looking for at a ride height is we're looking for the best drive possible around corners without the car bottoming out over jumps or having any other issues. So on a smooth track, high grip, you're going to want to be nice and low. As we get bumpier, you're going to want to raise it up, and you can do a lot of other things to accept that bumpy track as well. And we can talk about that at a later date. But yeah, feel free to ask questions in the comments. If you guys want to shoot me a message and give me some ideas for a future episode, I'd love it. And let us know what you guys are looking for. Thanks for letting me do this. For the AE cars, generally speaking, your ride height on, let's say, an 8-scale buggy right like this, somewhere around 25. So like Aiden will run 23, 24 in the front, 25, 26 in the rear. 24, 20. Okay, thanks. And then the T4, he's about 10 millimeters higher. So like, 34, 35, 36 in that range.
Aiden, stick your head in the camera.
He's over there at his pit doing homework. I stole
Good.
Dylan's pit, but he's kind of far away.
That's great, though. You just said the follow-up, the question that I was going to ask you, which is, obviously, where do you guys come out of the box with your ride height, depending on what track. But Vinny, what you just did was awesome. Definitely something that we wanted to integrate into the podcast moving forward. And the fact that you just volunteered it was great in Instant Messenger, and I love it. I think it's great, and major bonus for what we're trying to do here for everybody. So thank you.
Awesome. I think unless somebody tells me otherwise, I think camber for next time. Camber.
I can't wait to hear you on camber links, let alone camber.
Vin, I appreciate that you're one of the only guys doing this that I can understand your accent.
Cool.
Toby does not have an accent.
We all have accents. Toby's
Talk
good.
about. Could be a lot worse.
South Jersey accent.
That's me.
Water.
I've heard I don't say the word frustrate correctly.
Oh,
I
integrated.
got a couple friends from over the pond, and I'll tell you, those accents work out for you in the States.
One last time, if anybody's looking for a car, this one's fully built. It's going to be on display at Trains and Lanes tomorrow, and it comes with setup sheet for Trains and Lanes, and I'm pretty sure they're going to put it on sale over there too.
Cool.
Anyway, shameless plug, Trains and Lanes. Thank you guys.
Not a shameless plug, man. Their logo's down at the bottom, and Brian Cruz and the guys from over there are part of who we're following and what's going on. So that's great. And you guys building the car and putting that out there for sale as part of what they're offering is awesome, man.
It's ready to go, set up for Trains and Lanes. And Shell Racing. Thanks to Kurt Wenger for throwing in these free straps right here for the demo car. Battery straps.
Are they better than like Techno straps?
I mean, they're pretty solid, man. They're awesome, and they're not going anywhere. They're amazing.
I'll see you over at Trains tomorrow, Vin. I'll be there.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, we're going to work on a 10-scale track a little bit tomorrow. I know Chase has been, in the machines all week, every single day this week. He did a bunch of ballasts on the lights. Brian's been there. I'm not sure who else has been there. But yeah, shout out to those guys for really putting in.
Stober's always there helping. I always see Stober there helping out.
Stober's a man. Yeah.
I try and get there as much as I can. Work kills me, so I try and get there before a race weekend at least once.
Appreciate
Vin,
it.
are we seeing a new layout for HB Days?
Oh yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm really digging this layout. I can't wait.
I can't wait to say goodbye to those fucking whoops and that stupid triple shithole in the middle of that track.
You gotta know how to run those whoops, man. You gotta,
fucking whole season of that. Whole season.
The Kyosho doesn't drive itself right through those things?
It doesn't. No. I got a question for you, Tom. HB Days. Does HB like sponsor the event, and if so, what does it kind of bring to the table? Do you know?
I don't know, but I can tell you from attending in the past, a lot of the pros come out. So I'm pretty sure Ogden's going to be there. The Fullers are going to be there. I'm not sure. Last year, I don't know if he was there last time or not. I don't think he was. But usually a lot of the pro drivers will come out. They do sponsor it. I know there was a lot of giveaways last time and raffles. It was really well attended, and it was just an absolute blast. I mean, it wasn't. They call it HB Days, but everybody's there.
Yeah, no,
it's a good time.
I was just bouncing ideas around in my head on Brian's behalf. It would be kind of cool if it evolved into like a manufacturers cup kind of thing in the region, where like Associated could bring a lot to the event, Kyosho, Techno, you know what I mean? We could create that kind of environment. There have in the past been kind of manufacturers cup events.
Something with AMS, but up in Jersey or PA.
Yeah, something
that's called PMS.
Yeah, there you go. PMS, I like it. But either way, you know what I'm saying? So I think that would be pretty cool. Then all teams could kind of bring something to an event like that. Pro drivers, giveaways, whatever, and brand it that way, like it's a big brand, playoff or something. Would be pretty cool.
They got the facility for it. The track layout's always a blast, so
sure.
No reason why we couldn't do something like that.
We're trying to make it a little bit bigger every time.
Yep.
And also, pitch it just right too, so the runoff is right. So even after we're done with the track, it doesn't require so much maintenance, and people can get out there and practice. And that's a big thing. Like, I want people to be able to get out there and practice and elevate their level.
What's the schedule then? By the way, so it's Thursday is set up, Friday practice, Saturday quals, Sunday mains.
I think the only thing we have down there is Saturday quals and Sunday main. On the first is the mains. I'm not sure about practice yet.
Yeah, I think Friday was a practice day.
Since Friday practice.
Yep. Full day practice. Kind of what like
next big event.
Yep.
Next big event. I'm excited. HB Days. I've been running HB like Tom, so it'll be really good to see the whole crew out there. I'm excited to meet the Fullers, and if Cole's out there, it would be nice to run into him as well. People's champ, right? Got a People's champ for sure, and should be a really good event. I know Schreffler is going to be happy, right? So he's the top HB guy in our East Coast area.
Schreffler's always happy. Guy's shrinking away to nothing now.
Oh yeah, Skeletor, baby Skeletor.
Baby Skeletor. Him and Devoso, Skeletor twins. But
I showed my wife a picture of Jason from last year's HB Days.
Me too.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Awesome.
My wife was like, that's a separate guy. Different guy.
It's half a guy.
Half a guy, but still twice the racer.
He's the happy elf, whereas Devoso is the angry elf.
All right. Well, we are going to actually mention some events that are coming up, right? As we're going to conclude the podcast. Normally at this point, what Toby does is another quick deep dive into some of the other upcoming races that are going to be happening. And since I know Toby hasn't looked at them yet, I'm going to keep talking for a few minutes. And while he does maybe a second or two. So what we do have is the HB Days that are coming up. I believe that is the end of September into the first weekend of October. HB Days at Trains and Lanes. I believe that Barnes, looking at Toby's race calendar this week, I'm going to take over this section, Toby.
There's a cash race this Sunday at the barn.
Yeah, cash race at the barn. Toby, go ahead. You got info?
No, there's absolutely no marketing or discussion whatsoever.
I know if the barn, if we have some impending weather. I know Tom's racing down at Rhythm. I keep seeing that.
I'm excited to get down there.
We'll actually get into Tom and what he's going to be doing over at his facility. Since Alan Placer is here, he's going to fill in for Toby on the race schedule. Go ahead, Alan. What did you find?
So we got October 8th is the Mako race at Barnstormers. Obviously, we've discussed HB days, the 14th and 15th, possibly 13th for practice. The LCRC Halloween race is the weekend of the 21st. And also Lou's Half Gas Blast at Barnstormers is that same weekend on Sunday the 22nd. And that'll put us through October for the area here.
Those are all great races. And Joe, I am so happy that you actually gave a thumbs up for the Lou's Half Fast.
Man,
Gas
I went to that race for the first time last year. And to see, I don't personally know Lou. I shook his hand and I said, thank you very much for what you've done here. The amount of just outpouring love that was to that man and the prayer he said, everything. He just seemed like such a quality guy. And it touched me. When I was there, I was like, this is something real cool to happen here.
I agree.
And
it's yeah, exactly, Toby. It's kind of a special thing. So like when Luke comes out to the racetrack, right? He's not involved anymore. His son's not involved. His son Chris was like one of the fastest racers on the East Coast. This kid would go to Motorama, build a kit the night before of a car he doesn't even run, and literally make the A and be very competitive. It was always a question of where he would have been if he continued in RC. But Lou was an amazing guy. Anybody who knows him knows that he's very religious. He's a family guy. He did the track for him and his family, and then it just expanded. But he's just a great guy. So that race is great. I think I've been going there for that race since around 2011, believe it or not. There you go. There he is. There's the Papa. So speaking of Lou, I'm going to try to reach out to him, Toby, because what we have coming up for episode 10, and by the way, anybody who's watching this, any of our fellow racers that joined to watch, any new people that are coming to watch that like our podcast and what we're trying to do for the Northeast group, and guys like Joe, is do us a favor, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, try to share the podcast when it comes out so that we can try to build a user base. We're just looking to just build a foundation beneath us and really just try to keep this thing going. The more thumbs up and shares we get, know that people are watching, and that means it gives us some encouragement to keep going. Right?
It'll be on someone's got their speaker on. It'll be on YouTube as well, and if I can get my finger out of my ass, I'll try and get these audio podcasts on the Apple podcast app. But I've been saying that all year, so don't hold your breath.
Now that I think about it, your arm has been like this the entire time we've been doing this podcast.
Toby, what do you call a Beverly Hills proctologist?
No idea.
Goldfinger. All right. So moving along. No, that's a great joke. What do you talk? All right. So moving right along. Episode 10 that we have coming up next is going to be a special episode for us. It's a small achievement, right? We started with an idea. Now we're pressed in 10 episodes. I can't do it without my man in the top left-hand corner, Toby. So thank you so much. And Tom Petrello has been participating almost every episode. So that's great as well. And then we have our great attendees that show up, our guest speakers, and then guys that start to contribute like Vinny, which is awesome. And other just good friends that pop in like Alan. But we have episode 10 that's coming up. So Toby and I were talking about how to make it special. And so special means live. So we are going to do a live episode for episode number 10 coming up in October. I believe it's October 11th from what we talked about. And we got some great racers that are coming that have basically been monuments, figures of the Barnstormers in New York. And part of that is I'm going to reach out to Lou to see if maybe he'll pop in for maybe a guest few minutes on the podcast. But we basically have Jay Bless and Steve Plackett, yep, that are going to be part of episode 10 live. So we're really excited about that. I'm looking forward to get both of those guys on. We're going to do them independently. We're interested in having both guys talk, but both of the guys have been involved at the barn for so long and integral in what's been happening there over the years. So I think it's important. And both of those guys hold a lot of history for local RC A-Scale racing. So super excited. Please come back and check us out for episode number 10. In the meantime, I want to say again, thanks so much to Average Joe. As far as I'm concerned, bro, the only average you are is just the number of years you've been racing, but you're a great racer. You have super respect for the hobby. You're super into it, not only hands and feet, but head and wallet, to say the least. I don't know what happened to my collar. Maybe Toby's.
Trippy, man.
Cool, Trippy.
What's really weird is he looks like that to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm looking at George right now and he's purple.
Could be like the herbal organic.
I didn't do nothing.
Like Barney.
It's all good. Maybe it's my camera.
I appreciate
shitty
everything
camera.
you guys are saying, and like I said, if it wasn't for guys like you being so nice to guys like me coming into the hobby, you know, it wouldn't have the community that it has. And I'm glad to be here and glad to see where it goes. You know, the next till I'm running 40 plus.
That's it. Well, you got time for that, but without guys like you, it doesn't bring the energy into the hobby. So I personally want to thank you. And I know the other guys are probably going to say goodbye, but for me, thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys.
Take it easy.
All right. Anybody else have a parting note for Average Joe?
No.
All right.
I'll pretty much see all of you for the most part at one of the next races. So have a great
see you
night.
at HB.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Well, with that being said,
Take it
we
easy.
appreciate you coming on for episode number 9. Episode 10 will be coming up next. We'll see you guys in a month. Once again, thanks a lot to my co-hosts, Toby Hansen, Tom Petrella, Alan Placer, Vinny Manchanda, and our Average Joe. Thanks a lot. We'll see you guys again next month.
Have a good night,
Come
guys.
on back
Thank
to the Northeast RC Racer Podcast.